So we're extremely excited today because we have Veronica Lopez-Calleja on today, and you're the first family law practitioner we've ever had on. So
Awesome.
we're extremely excited. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? What schools did you go to? Just give us a little bit of a background information.
So thank you for having me, first of all. I really appreciate it. I was born in Cuba, came when I was 3. We lived in Westchester. I went to
Go Westchester.
every single public school possible. And then I graduated top of my class in high school.
Was that Southwest? Or?
No, Varela?
Okay.
Felix Ferrella.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up getting a scholarship to UF, and I sat my mom down and I said, hey, so I'm going to go to UF. And being an only child of Cuban descendants, my parents were like devastated and heartbroken and told me I basically could not leave this house.
Right. So when did you graduate from FIU? What year?
So I graduated from FIU
Exactly.
in 2013.
Okay.
And then I graduated law school in 2015.
Florida's not that far away, by the way. It's not too bad.
No, it's not. It's just not in the, same zip
Yeah.
code as my
That's
parents.
And that's way too far.
So yeah, being an only child is a little tough in that sense, but I don't regret obviously leaving now. Not leaving because I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
And what made you pursue the legal career? Was that something that you majored in, or you had that as a foresight, or was that something that kind of just developed later on?
So growing up, everybody would tell me, "Oh, this one's going to be a lawyer," and it just stuck. Always.
And well, you said you graduated, I think, with your bachelor's in 2013, and you graduated from law school in 2015.
Yep.
It's usually 3 years for law school.
Yep.
How did you make it go so fast? Did you take extra classes, summer courses? And what law school did you go to, by the way?
So I went to St. Thomas University, and I went there because they offered me a partial scholarship, and I took advantage of whatever money they would give me. It was a little far, but it was doable. But because it was so far, I was like, I need to get out of here ASAP. So I did a shit ton of classes in the summer. I never took off. I didn't do the study abroad because that also delays you a little bit. So doing the extra classes, I was able to graduate a whole year early.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's
So
really fast.
2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she did it fast in 2 years. That's almost unheard of. And I know that the study abroad does give you some credits, but I think you're right. It does sort of
Yeah.
hold
You're
you
only
back a little bit. You're
I
limited.
think, into 2 classes during study abroad. But I'll tell you, it's a great experience. So
No, I
should have done it.
I bet I know,
Yeah, you
but then
should've.
I wouldn't have started adulting as fast as I did.
That's fair. Sometimes it's good to wait, though, before we start to adult.
I know, but I was very determined to just finish school.
Were you in any clinics while you were in law school? Anything like that?
So I interned for regional counsel, and then I interned for the city of Miami attorney's office, and that was fun. And I met some really cool people along the way, and yeah. After that, I just went and I opened my own firm straight after law school.
But family was something that you always
No.
had as a focus?
Never, ever.
Because
I didn't even
City
take
of
a
Miami,
law school class of family.
Right. So,
Ever.
so going from, I'm sure, how was the learning curve for family?
It was really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. I didn't know anything. And, you guys know, law school doesn't teach you what a notice of appearance is, what the docket is,
Yeah.
what the e-filing portal is.
Yeah.
So I think those little struggles, they're quite rewarding when you kind of figure it out yourself, but it's totally unnecessary. I should have worked at a firm, learned what a docket was before I just jumped into this deep ocean of the unknown. But I know it kind of makes you more resilient.
What made you take that plunge like that without maybe getting a little bit more experience working at other firms? What just prompted that decision?
I would be a horrible employee. I would want to do everything my way. So, yeah, that's why.
Family law is tough. I have a quick story. About 11 years ago, I took a retainer for a family law case, and they called me the following day, and they're like, look, my husband did not pay for the braces, and my child's braces, and there's, I don't know, I guess it's a monthly payment that they were paying. The husband hadn't paid, and she was upset. She was crying. She was demanding that I file a motion, and I was like, all right, this is not for me. This is a tough area.
Yeah.
It's very emotional, and I pretty much gave the retainer right back. So, what is your experience, especially in terms of the emotional aspect with family law? Because it can be very taxing on people.
So I think that early on, I had to make a decision personally to either wear my heart on my sleeve with these people or separate it because I was going to go crazy. I would dream about my cases. It was so bad in the beginning.
And by the way, they're not dreams; they're nightmares, mostly.
Yeah, nightmares. It was almost like I would be walking somewhere and my client would be with me. So, they weren't bad clients. They were just going through really hard times. But I didn't need to be thinking about my clients. Like it was taxing. But then you learn how to separate it and how to just force yourself to not think about these things once you leave the office. And I think if you're able to do that and you master it, then you could do family. You have to have a strong stomach for it. And also the patience and the empathy and, understand that these people are just going through the worst times in their life.
And I can imagine once their kids are involved, in the custody issues, really gets emotional. I would assume.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but a lot of times we sort of focus on the emotional aspect, how difficult it is, especially on us as the lawyers that are representing these individuals. But at the same time, there's a lot of good that comes from it. So I think that's probably, if you focus on the good, that makes it a little bit easier, I'm assuming. If you're always focusing on the negatives and on the bad, it's going to be very, very difficult on you. But if you focus on some of the good that you do, you're obviously helping out the children, you're helping out the individuals that are going through really tough times. If you're walking them through probably their most difficult point in their lives, and there's a lot of good that's done there. So, which is probably what sort of motivates you, I'm sure, right? Yeah.
It does. And I like to ask for a picture of like the children just so the staff knows and I know and we all, kind of get into perspective as to why we're doing this. But yes, it can be very rewarding. It really can.
I know obviously you do divorces. Are there any other subsets to family law that you practice, maybe some guardianship or anything like that you guys do other than just divorces? Is there anything?
So other than divorces, we do paternities. Relocations, modifications, post-judgments, prenups, postnups. We do those a lot.
Oof, we need to talk about that.
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit about that.
Lot.
The postnup, because that's very interesting. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually do a postnup, right?
Yeah.
So postnuptial, after you get married, right? You can actually do a document, right? A postnup. And what does that contain? What are some of the general requirements? We don't need to get into too many specifics, but a lot of people don't know you can actually do postnup.
So it basically lays out the terms of what your divorce is going to look like when you guys are so happy, and it's funny because the people who do the postnups, most of the time they never end up using it because they end up staying together. Because if you can be so transparent with somebody and actually enter into that agreement, I think you're pretty much set.
So essentially, you're modifying the this is something I'm not even familiar with.
So there's a prenuptial agreement, which is
Right.
done before you're married, and then there's a postnuptial agreement that you do after you're married. You are able to modify a prenup,
Okay.
and then it will turn into a postnuptial agreement or an amendment to the prenup. But a postnup is amazing. If you are inheriting something just in case you don't have to, or you do commingle, or it can get really complicated.
So essentially, if let's say you get an inheritance after you're already married, you have your prenuptial agreement, then you get married and you're inheriting, I don't know, baseball cards, for example, then you would go into an agreement and say, hey, look, this is not yours. Should we get divorced, essentially?
No, if that person who's with you has a vested interest in the baseball cards, if they're worth millions of dollars, and she's like, well, I know that if we ever get divorced, or she says, during a fight one time, if we get divorced, half of those cards are mine. That's a red flag right there.
Well, sure.
So other than simply the timing, obviously prenup is before you get married and then the postnup is after, is there any other difference between the two?
No.
Okay, so essentially the same thing, just the timing. One's
Just the
before,
timing.
one is after.
Yep.
Okay. How difficult is it to get a postnuptial agreement or to get your spouse to agree to a postnuptial agreement? Because at that point, you're already married. I mean, is that
Right.
some sort of experience that you've had in, or?
So what I tell them is that when my clients come to me and they say, look, I need to protect this in the case of this, you know, she likes to go out, she likes to do this, I don't know what she's doing. I would hate to be in a position where she's unfaithful and then now I have to split everything with her. So when the clients bring in their spouses and when they're good, not mad at each other, I tell them, listen, if you come into an agreement now when you both are happy, and as opposed to in the middle of a divorce when it's everybody is upset, everybody's angry, everybody's just thinking on full-blown emotion and how you can screw the other person over. If you can come into an agreement when you both are happy, then why wouldn't you do that and save yourselves thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars? So if you word it correctly and you have the conversation in a way where it's like safeguarding both of them, where you're not entirely like excluding the person, because if she gets representation and they're like, well, you're going to be entitled to alimony either way, you've never worked, you get into the postnup agreement that says, okay, you will receive alimony in the amount of X, Y, and Z if you're together for 5 years, if you celebrate your 10-year anniversary, if you celebrate your 20. So it's not like one person is getting screwed over. It's just saving you a lot if in the event you ever do get a divorce.
Do you think that maybe, because a lot of people don't know that postnuptial agreements even exist, do you think that maybe that's the reason, which is, hey, it's a lot maybe more difficult to get your significant other to sort of agree after you've gotten married? That's why more people focus on prenups as opposed to postnups, right?
Right.
So I'm assuming that may play a factor into it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm imagining that conversation, even breaching that conversation is very difficult, because how do you come up to someone when you're already married, everything's good? So look, I don't trust you to some extent. Can we decide
Right.
what to do if we get married? That's why I'm sure it's rare. I'm
Right.
assuming, right? I mean, I don't
No,
think
I
it's
do. I do lots of
Really?
postnups too. Yeah, I do.
Oh, well, and you
do.
brought something up, and I was going to get into the alimony aspect because you mentioned alimony. So I'm assuming you can modify alimony through prenuptial agreements, right? This is what you will get, a certain percentage.
When
Is
you
that-
say modify,
well, not
alimony.
modify. Well, you're setting what your alimony is in a prenup,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Now-
you're setting the whole. If you guys ever divorce, there's a marital settlement agreement that gets drafted based on what you guys agreed upon in the prenuptial
But
agreement.
absent that, right? Are there any? What is Florida's guidelines on alimony? Because my understanding, there may be some changes coming or recently passed on alimony and the way that the courts see it, in the way, in fairness and whatnot. So what are, can you just kind of explain to us how that works?
one of the big changes that happened in July of 23 was that they eliminated permanent alimony. So
Okay.
people used to have alimony forever.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Forever.
But that could that change pending circumstances? So I
No,
owe the
there's
alimony,
no
but
permanent alimony anymore.
right. No,
Right.
I mean, prior to 2023, this is from friends, parents and stuff, and just friends of mine, right? You're paying a certain amount, but if you're not making as much money, then
Oh,
you
you
can
can always
modify
modify
that,
it,
right?
yeah.
But
You
that
can
would
always
be
modify.
forever, unless a person got married, right?
Right, unless it's very hard. Back then, you had to be married for a certain amount of time for more than 17 years to even qualify for permanent alimony.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's very, very, very specific circumstances that you would warrant a permanent alimony award.
So now that they took away the permanent alimony, is there some sort of guidelines as to how long you can get alimony for?
There is.
Okay, so there is some sort of
now
limit?
it's much easier because now there's a calculation, there's a percentage. So it's short, moderate, and long term. So anything more than 20 years, then it's 75% of your marriage, the length of your marriage. So it's much easier to calculate now than it was before.
That's
Yeah.
very interesting. Okay, so I know that you said more than 20 years, right? But let's just use 10 as an example, right? You said 75% of
So
the amount
for
of time
10,
that you've been married?
65%.
65. Okay, so then that means that you would get alimony for 6.5 years?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
You're vesting in court.
Okay.
That's staying in court.
And what are some of the factors that would reduce the 6.5 years?
So the statutory factors is like the length of the marriage, what you attributed to the marriage. Did you stop your career? Did you stop advancing your career? What was the standard of living? There's various factors that will determine all of that.
And do they base the alimony on your best year? Is there an average? In other words, it's all, you take all those factors into account.
And what your income, right?
Right. So it would be your best income. Is it an average?
What the current income is and what you're going to be making, right? And what, like, let's say somebody is starting law school. Well, her income or his income is going to change.
Right.
Because they're getting paid a law clerk salary. Now they're going to get paid a lawyer salary. So it's different. It changes.
I guess what you're asking is, what about if it varies? So let's say
Right.
one year you make $500,000 a year, but the following year you make $200,000 a year, just as an example. Do they sort of take an average, or is this?
They'll take an average.
Okay.
And, what you're expected to, are you continuing to work the same employment? Are you continuing to do the same stuff? Are you
Right.
changing? Are you about to retire? Like what? It's a lot of factors.
Right. Because, for example, if you're in sales and you work on commissions, right, that varies a lot.
Right.
You can make great sales one year, another year you're not making as much. You might have some money put away.
Right.
So that kind of,
Well, then that's
those
an
changes.
argument to make to the court. That
That's
look,
why they'd hire you.
right.
Right.
That's an argument to make that, well, this isn't the norm. I'm not going to, this isn't a guaranteed salary every year. And then, you don't know if that person is also going
Right.
to work, or is she working, or is he working? And what is, you have to get the determination of what her income is going to be or what it is at the moment. Or again, maybe she's in school, maybe she's about to graduate, or he is about to graduate. So
Okay.
there's so many ways to skin the cat.
Well, there's also the child support, so I'm sure there's
was gonna get
guidelines
there
for
now.
that. I know
Right.
that those guidelines have been around for quite some time.
Yes.
Have those changed at all? How does that work?
So for the guidelines, it's very straightforward. It's a calculation. It's very black and white, what your income is. If your parents are paying for your rent, that's considered income. If somebody's paying for your car, that's considered income for you. It's in, so once we determine what each of the incomes are, then we do the deductions of what the mandatory union dues, the mandatory taxes, the mandatory fees that you
Okay.
have to pay. If you're already paying child support to somebody else, that's also a deduction. And it spits out a number at the end based on time sharing, who has the, if it's equal overnights, if one has more than the other, and then that's what it comes down to.
And it ends at 18 years old. Is that the typical?
Or you can exceed it one more year if they're still in high school.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if they're still in high school.
Yeah.
So once, and then obviously.
Or if
alimony-
they have special needs. Like I've had it even more if the child has special needs and requires like extreme medical attention,
Okay,
you can exceed it even more.
interesting.
Yeah.
And we discussed the pre and post nup. That's not something that you can waive on that, right? Is the child support. You can't waive
No.
child support on the prenups and post nups.
No.
You can,
Or temporary alimony.
okay,
Because
so.
you can agree to say, well, you're not going to receive alimony in your postnup or your prenup, but you cannot waive temporary alimony.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Or
Is that
attorney's fees.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. So I
Or
didn't know that.
temporary attorney's fees.
Is that a recent change, or is
No.
that something that's been around?
No,
Okay,
that's been
so
around.
temporary alimony, that's not something you can waive on a pre or post nup.
No.
Oh, see,
Interesting.
I didn't know that either.
And are you able to?
I mean, it goes against like public policy.
well,
Sure.
but when you say
Thing is,
temporary,
Right.
how long?
during the pendency of the divorce.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
timeline.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Mhm.
the okay.
Yeah. And child support is, you can never waive child support ever.
Okay.
You can't even waive it now and say, oh, I don't want him to give me anything, or I don't want her to give me anything. No, I'm sorry, this is child support.
Interesting.
It's not your right, it's the right of the child.
And
Got it.
and I'm sure it varies a lot, but a divorce, how long do those typically take? Yeah.
So the famous answer, it depends. It can take from 6 months to a year if it's an average, normal, mid-sized income.
And
Is it
sorry,
does it vary by the assets, or does
Yeah,
it
by the
vary
assets.
how contentious overall it is?
By the assets, and obviously
Essentially,
if
it's
there's
assets.
children's issues and you need a guardian ad litem, then that's obviously going to take some time. I've done a divorce in a week,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
they both come in and they're like, "This is what we want." I'm like, "Okay, you sign here, you do this, and that's it."
Okay.
So,
But-
kind of going on the alimony aspect, do you have any examples of cases that you have where it was very interesting, where maybe somebody was hiding money or someone, without saying names, of course, and they were trying to, hide their money so they wouldn't pay their spouse or their ex-spouse a certain amount of money?
That
Any
happens.
interesting?
That's all my cases.
All your cases, right? Right. There you
That's
go.
all my cases. They're like,
Nothing-
yeah,
nothing
no,
interesting or a
the business makes $500,000, but no, I only pay myself $20,000. I'm like, okay. So does your business pay for your mortgage? Does your business
Yeah, they have
pay
a
for
Rolls
your
Royce, right? And they
car?
put it under
Yeah,
the
like
business.
your new Beamer. Like, does your business also pay for your Beamer that you use to take your kids to school?
Right, and then
You
that's
know?
how, so
How
you
about
would
your
have.
vacations?
So I'm assuming that would be similar to us in civil, where if we're trying to, I guess you say, pierce the corporate veil, right? Where we'll show that in reality it's actually a personal asset, or
Right.
they're actually using it as a personal fund, and then we
Right,
can
because your
try
business
to.
is reimbursing your personal expenses.
So have you been able to go ahead and convince a court and say, look, that business really, it's a personal slush fund, right? He can do whatever
Yeah.
he wants with it. He's not really using it
Right.
as a business. He's actually
The
using it
judges know
personally.
that. Judges know that what people
Right.
do. Judges know.
Right, because
So-
everything when you do, when you go to your trials and you go to hearings, it's with a judge. So
Yeah.
they can see clearly right through. You're not doing it in front of a jury that can kind
Yep.
of make a decision. It's all straightforward with a judge.
Yep.
They can see the BS.
So when I
Right.
first started, I actually had a case where there was a gentleman. He was the opposing party, and he was basically just his actual income that was being put into his account was like $500,000, and he was getting that money through his grandmother. He was the beneficiary of this trust.
Okay.
His grandmother, that was his only grandchild. It was just him. Everybody else died, and it was him and her. And he was like, "No, but I don't make that money." And they're like, "Okay, but where do you live?" "Oh no, I live here." I'm like, "Okay, how do you pay a $15,000 mortgage? How? How is that even possible?"
Right.
So we were able to argue a constructive trust on behalf of the actual trust that he was receiving all this money, and it should be considered income.
It should be considered
You
income.
know?
Do you typically use forensic accountants to prove that, or how does that
So
go
forensic
about?
accountant is more when there's a lot of assets and there's a lot of bank accounts. So it's, you get a bank account statement and there's like transfer to here, transfer to there, transfer to here, Zelle to here, and it's like you get a forensic and they kind of tell you, oh, okay, well there's this much here, there's this much there. He's sending money to here, and then that's how they find offshore account, or that's how they find, people trying to send it to their brother, and they've sent their brother $200,000 in the past 3 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Right.
Yeah, it's
See that.
basically a way to sort of wash the funds,
Wash the
right?
funds, right.
And people do it all the time.
Yeah,
so.
I make 50 grand a year, but in reality, you're making 10 times that amount of money, and
Right.
yeah.
Interesting.
But then
What-
they've known what they've been doing the whole time.
Of
They've been
course.
trying to, so they've known they were always going to get divorced.
They're anticipating the divorce.
They're anticipating
so
the divorce. They start
they're-
way ahead of time, and they're already like, okay, let's
Yeah.
start.
Yeah,
It makes sense.
it's a thing.
What is maybe the funniest thing that's ever happened to you, either in court or in a case, or something a little bit more lighthearted?
The funniest, I laugh at it now. It wasn't funny.
Right, right,
At the time,
exactly.
it was like really concerning. I had an opposing counsel who went to court very intoxicated, and she lost the hearing, and she continued to scream at the judge, attacking her personally. And I don't know how this lady did not go to jail. But the judge,
Bar complaint.
the judge recused herself, and I was like, okay, yes, but you already ruled. Can you please just draft your order and just sign it? And she's like, nope, I'm recusing myself.
Oh my goodness. What time was the hearing at? Was it a morning hearing?
Yes,
A morning.
It was a morning hearing
Oh, wow.
There are
Yeah.
a lot of attorneys.
So-
in person.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, this is
So
before
this was like
COVID.
an all-night bender, or did she just started earlier?
No,
He or
she
started
had
early?
an issue.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
There,
She had an issue.
that leads to other conversations, because there's definitely a lot of attorneys with substance abuse issues. And,
Yeah.
It's a difficult profession. It really is. So it's certainly something that people need to be very careful once they become a lawyer. There are a lot of lawyers that have substance abuse issues,
Yeah.
right? Because of the anxiety and the stress and the problems that oftentimes we deal with, people find themselves finding peace or comfort in the substances, right? And that's
Yeah.
why they get into substance abuse
Yeah, it
issues.
could be
So-
tolling for some people.
Uh-huh.
It could be very tolling for some.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Big time, big time.
Absolutely.
So, talking about kind of going into shifting gears into the kid aspect or child aspect of family law. So, when does the court appoint a guardian or someone to kind of look after and and see, whether what's in the best interest of a child. How does that work within the court? And who gets appointed as a guardian? Is that typically a lawyer? Or is it someone who's a psychologist? How does that
anybody
work?
can be, anybody can be a guardian.
Right.
It doesn't have to be an attorney. It's preferred that it's an attorney
It
because
can
they
be an
kind of
attorney.
know. Yeah, it can, but it doesn't have to be. But a guardian ad litem basically tells the court what is in the best interest of the child according to their opinion. Obviously, they interview the child, they interview the dad, they interview the mom, they interview teachers, they interview doctors, anybody who they feel like they need to further investigate to figure out where should this kid go, what should this kid be doing. That's what a guardian is going to do.
Now, that guardian has pretty much full access to
Yes.
the home or interviews, even the child. Is it unsupervised interview, or is it with a parent there?
So
interview?
the times that I have done my guardian ad litem interviews, because I've been a guardian as well, I do them just the child and myself. I've done the interviews with the mom and then with the dad, but I always interview the child by themselves.
We were involved in a case where brief involvement, and we argued a couple hearings. It got really contentious. We represented the mom briefly, if you remember the case, and the mom had a very big issue with the guardian, and it seemed that
One
the
parent
guardian,
always does.
well, but in this case, there was video of the ex-husband punching her, and the guardian kept arguing that no, even then the child was in better hands with the dad, the father, but the guardian was friends with the judge, and there was a huge issue trying to get them to recuse themselves or get them stricken, get them out of the case. Ultimately, won the case, and on that hearing, we were proud of because it was a very well-known law firm here in Miami, out of Miami Beach actually, and we won the hearing. But then the mom eventually still had an issue, and then blew the case later because she violated I don't know how many visitations and held the child longer than he had. But there was a very big issue with the guardian. It was because the guardian was just kind of favorable to one side, and the judge was listening to her. And then once the judge saw the video of the ex-husband punching the wife in front of the child, then obviously at that point the judge was like, yeah, what do you want to our client? You know, and we had to argue because they almost didn't show the video. Because the guardian, and then the judge looked at the guardian, he's like, how can you tell me that you still believe that it's best with the father because the video's punching in front of the child?
Right.
So I feel like it's a very small world in family law, and
It is a very small
right.
world.
It's a little bit different than us, where we can go in front of a judge who we may know very well, we're friends with, but that judge is also very good friends with somebody else, and there's thousands of us, right? The judges, it's very clear. There's no guardians assigned.
Right.
We don't have that extra element where maybe that attorney is friends with the judge, who's friends with that other lawyer. It's just, for me, I found it very foreign to me. I didn't like it. I don't think we took another case. I mean, we can argue it.
You have to love it, though. You have to love it because it is emotional. It is very difficult, and it's it's in the sense of this is everybody's hardest time.
So, are there any changes with all the changes we had mentioned? A few changes in 2023. Are there any changes as far as co-parenting? From what I read a little bit about how now it's a little more 50-50, but I don't know.
So in 2023, that shifted. In 2023, that's when equal time sharing was the rebuttable presumption that it was in the best interest of the child. So that's the standard. You walk into court, both parents have 50-50.
Well, before it was the mother, right? Am I wrong or completely?
Before 2023, you had to get a paternity order, and then at that point, you would have to argue why you should have 50-50. Now, if you are on the birth certificate and it has not been rescinded within the first 60 days in acknowledgement of paternity, then you automatically have rights to your child.
So you can be a dad or a mom that has not been in that child's life for, 10 years. And then all of a sudden they come out of the woodwork. Oh, no, I want to
If they're on the birth certificate, they have rights.
Wow. Obviously, you would have to argue.
She would, or either parent would have to argue why that person the other parent should not have equal time sharing.
And what are some of the factors for a judge to determine?
The best interest of the child
Just best
factors.
interest
The best interest of the child. And especially if the child is expressing something, then at that point, you would get the guardian ad litem to attest for what the best interest of the child should be.
Do you have any recommendations to someone, maybe a law student or someone just graduating from law school, or just a practitioner that is considering getting into family law? Any sort of recommendations that you may have for those people?
I would say go sit in a courtroom and just watch the hearings. Go get on a Zoom and just listen to the hearings and hear and see if you like it. You know, there's family attorneys who don't like to litigate. Maybe you do like family, but you're not a litigating attorney. Maybe you are more like a prenup and a postnup and more transactional. So if you like litigation, then go that route. But you may discover what you like when you watch hearings and you watch proceedings. And it's also good for practical, like in a practical sense.
Sure.
That's
That
good
makes a lot of
advice.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great advice.
A lot of judges have the
And-
Zoom links that are available to pretty
Yeah.
much anybody. And it's
I mean,
the same Zoom link.
Yeah.
for most
Family
colleges.
it's public. So family hearings are public. So.
And one of the things that I know you do, you're very involved with local bar organizations. I think you're on a few e-boards. Is there something you can tell us a little bit more about that?
So I'm on the Coral Gables board of directors. I'm on the Miami-Dade Bar Young Lawyers Section board of directors. I'm very involved with the YLS, which is the Young Lawyers Section. I am on the family committee for the Miami-Dade Bar. And I'm part of other business associations, but that's, business aspect. But yeah.
It's very time consuming, as we all know,
Yes.
to be involved in that many organizations.
It is.
Other than, I'm sure, liking it, is there a reason why you do it?
To stay relevant,
Sure.
there's a lot of family attorneys out there who are doing it for whatever reasons they want to do it. I do family for very different reasons. I very much find joy and happiness when I hear, oh my God, I don't know how I could have gone through my divorce without you.
Right.
I was with this lawyer for 3 months and I didn't talk to them in 3 months because nobody would answer their phone. And it's been such a change with you. And for me, that is very rewarding.
To that point, it's not just filing the documents and the petitions and arguing the motions. There's a lot of hand-holding too.
Yeah, and
There's a lot of counseling.
They don't
You're
tell
there
their
for them.
siblings. Absolutely. They don't
Yeah.
go ahead and spread, all their dirty laundry to their friends and family. I know more. Me and my staff know more about people and their personal lives because we look at their finances. I look at your bank accounts. I look at
Right.
your credit cards. I know where you went Friday at 4:00.
Right.
So you don't give people that access, but we have all that access. So we get very deep with these families, and you have to be sensitive to that as well, because it's not something that should be taken lightly. And if you're going to be a family practitioner where they're just another number, then don't do it.
There are a lot of attorneys.
Go
I've heard
do-
horror stories. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm able to make somebody make a shift to be with a team who's going to care and who's actually going to give a shit,
Yeah.
then that's my goal.
Well, and they have to trust you. If they're
Right.
going to open
Right.
up the way they have to open up to
Right.
you, I mean, they're
You
opening
have
up.
to trust absolutely.
Yeah, their entire
Absolutely.
lives. Like you said, their finances,
Yep.
their things that happen
Personally
with
with other people, yeah.
personal with their significant other,
Yep.
arguments that they've had, how they abuse, how they deal with the
Right.
children, all these
Yeah.
things they really need to trust you. And I'm sure that is there anything that you do to gain that trust?
Just be real with them.
Yeah.
Just have a super raw conversation with them and listen to them. Sometimes they just need to be heard. And there's times where I've been in consultations and the time is up and they're crying and I'm not going to get up and leave.
Right.
I'm going to sit there and I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to say, how did you get here? I asked them, I was like, what happened? What was the triggering point that you guys broke up? And I don't need to know that
Yeah.
for legal purposes, at least not yet, but so they feel heard and they feel a connection with me. I'm going to ask and I'm going to go deeper and say, how and what happened and this and that, And I
have a
think people
question.
appreciate that.
Okay, now and is there, because you've been doing this for so many years now, is there sort of a common denominator that you would say in the divorces that you handle where you say, look, at some point they obviously loved each other. They got married, they loved each other. What happens at some point? I know there's so many factors and it varies, but is there something like a common denominator that you can say, this is it, this is an issue? Is it financial? Is it just the pressures of life? I mean, what is it?
So yes, obviously finances are always a big issue. And I think people just lose connection with each other because of the daily routine of everyone, you know. It was very different in the olden times where women never worked and they were home and they could tend to their men and they can tend to the kids. But nowadays, you both got to work. Unless one of you make a lot of money, you both have to work to live at least a little bit of a comfortable life, you know. And people just, you know, they get stuck in, it creates a disconnect. And at that, there gets to a point where it's like, you know, I had one yesterday, it was like, I just look at her and I feel nothing.
Maybe like a resentment almost, right? Where you're almost resentful that
it's
maybe
like
that person's
they
doing
become
something.
roommates and it happens.
Do you have a recommendation maybe to avoid that major pitfall? Is there anything that you can say, hey, more date nights, or you know, come home on a Friday night with a bottle of wine, whatever it may be? Like, how do you avoid that?
In the beginning of a relationship, you know, you can never even flatulate in front of a person because it's like, well, I don't want this person to not like me.
Yeah.
You would open doors. You would always make sure that you were on your best behavior.
That makes sense.
So stay on your best behavior, right?
So if you both always stay on your best behavior, you're set.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But that's and people forget that marriage is a lot of work. It's always going to be a lot of work. Always. But you know, ultimately, if you both choose each other at the end of the day, and even if you mess up, you know, the next day do better. The next day do better. So.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love it.
Great advice.
This was
well. How can somebody get a hold of you? I mean, if they need to, what is your phone number? The name of your law firm?
So the name of my law firm is the law offices of Veronica Lopez-Calleja.
Okay.
They can email me, veronica@lopezcallejalaw.com, or they can call us at 305-422-1451.
perfect. That was a great conversation. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. We got a lot of information. I hope we can do it again, actually. There's a lot to talk about.
There's
that was
so
amazing.
much to talk about.
We can do another hour easy, and I'm sure
sure
the law will change, and then you'll come back and update us on any of the changes, things we need to know.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.